May be seated. Well, an interesting thing happened in my sermon work this week. I started out in one direction and ended up somewhere else. So the more appropriate title for today's sermon is this: Building an Enduring Relationship with God. Building a vital and enduring relationship with God. I would suggest to you that a central focus of the Christian faith, of the book of Psalms, is just that. The enduring relationship of God with the people of Israel, and in return, their enduring relationship with Him. The enduring relationship of God with the Hebrew people, and their enduring relationship with Him. And the writer of the 78th Psalm says that they should pass on to the next generation, and to the generation after that, and to the generation after that, this enduring relationship with God. I want an enduring relationship with God. I really believe you want a vital and enduring relationship with God. But if that's going to happen, if you're going to have a vital, enduring relationship with God, if I'm going to have a vital and enduring relationship with God, then we need to do some things. So I want to just suggest 5 things you and I need to do this morning if we're going to have that kind of relationship with our God, an enriching and enduring relationship. First of all, we must truly and sincerely seek His will. If you're going to have an enduring relationship with God, then you must truly and sincerely seek His will. One of my favorite spiritual quotes, which I've used before, comes from Rick Warren in his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, where he writes, "It's not about you. The purpose of your life is far greater than your own personal fulfillment, your peace of mind, or even your happiness. It's far greater than your family, your career, or even your wildest dreams and ambitions. If you want to know why you were placed on this planet, you must begin with God. You were born by His purpose and for His purpose. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about God and about His will." Now that's rather sobering if you think about it. And some would say that it's probably spiritually overstated. But I would suggest to you this morning that you've already made that commitment. You've already said, may not have realized it, but you have already said that God's will be primary in your life. You know when you said that? When you prayed the Lord's Prayer. When you and I prayed, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." What? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. When you prayed that prayer, when I prayed that prayer, we said, whether we knew it or not, that we would recognize God's will as primary in our lives. Let me tell you 6 places in your life and in my life we really need to seek God's will. 1, what we do with our time. We really need to seek God's will in terms of how we use our time. Secondly, what we do with our financial resources. It shouldn't be about just what I want to do or what I think. What I do with my financial resources and what you do with your financial resources should be a conversation with God. Thirdly, what relationships are front and center in your life? Who are the people who are foremost in your life? Have you sought God's will on that? Fourthly, what habits and hobbies consume you? Have you tested your habits and your hobbies with God? Have you sought out His feeling, His thought about what you do with your habits and your hobbies? And the moral decisions you make. It's quite interesting in our culture how quickly we gravitate toward a certain perspective that's either liberal or moderate or conservative. And a high percentage of Christians, many preachers included, do not really test our moral positions against the will of God, against the Bible, in prayer, in conversation with spiritual friends. And finally, I would say we need to test the priorities of our lives with God's will? Do you make God's will a priority in your life? Second thing, if we're going to have a vital, enduring relationship with God, we need to spend time with God. I love the 46th Psalm when it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Don't you like that? Be still and know that I am God. The problem is, we're not still. Somebody said there are 3 roadblocks to our spending quality time with God: speed, fatigue, and noise. That resonates, doesn't it? Speed, fatigue, and night. We're rushing here and there. We're living hurried and harried lives, so we don't have time to be still with God. And in so doing, we wear ourselves out. And so we don't have time for God. We don't feel like making time for God. And then we are consumed by noise. Noise all around us. One thinker puts it this way. He says, political ads, music blaring, advertisements, phones dinging and ringing with texts, tweets, and emails, and notifications from 100 different apps. How do we cut the noise? I got 3 questions you and I need to ask, every one of us. First of all, what will we do to slow down? What will you do to slow down so you can be still and you can be with God? Now listen, I know the stories. I can think about the responses. I can think about my own life and give multiple reasons why I just can't slow down. Because there's always something to do, always some place to go, always some person with whom we need to be. You cannot have a vital relationship with God if you don't slow down. And the second question is, what will you do in your schedule to make time for God? Will you make room in your daily schedule that is God time? God's making time for us. Couldn't we make time for God? Have you ever thought about scheduling time with God? Maybe that's not the way you do it, but listen to me, folks. The way we live our lives, if we're waiting on time with God to just happen, you know the answer, right? It's not going to just happen. Will you make room in your schedule for God? And will you block out the noise? Will you turn the things off long enough that you just might hear God? How in the world am I going to hear God when my phone is vibrating or dinging and the texts are coming and the emails are coming? How do I have time for God? That's the second thing. Third thing is, we need to recognize we need God. If we're going to have a vital and enduring relationship with God, we need to be clear how much we need God. I had a member of another congregation who was probably the wealthiest man I've ever known. In all my ministry, 45 years, this man was probably the wealthiest man I've ever known. He was a very successful business person. He owned 2 to 3 businesses. He was on numerous boards in the community, the hospital board, the university board, several civic boards. He was involved with several civic organizations. He was highly respected in the community. If you asked people what they thought about this man, they would have used phrases like confident, self-assured, knows the business world, has the expertise, can get to the answers, knows how to run things, always in control. And then his life began to unravel. His daughter, teenage daughter, began to have problems, get in trouble all the time. And his neat little world began to shake a bit. His wife started having health issues, serious health issues. This was back when the economic downturn had begun and his business had begun to suffer financially, and that produced in him enormous stress, which affected his health. So here's a man who's got it all, seemingly. And then his daughter gets in trouble, His wife has health issues. His business is suffer. He begins to have health issues, and he came to talk to me. And we'd spend time talking, spend time praying. And one of the things he acknowledged was that he had missed it. He had missed the truth that your intellect cannot see you through some things. He had missed the truth that your expertise cannot see you through some things. He had missed the truth that all the knowledge, all the expertise, all the capability in the world cannot see you through the great crises of life. It's not about how smart you are or I am. It's not about how capable we are. It's not about how much expertise we have. Let me tell you something, and you know this. Let life hit you hard enough and me hard enough, and we'll be on our knees knowing we need God. Right? Well, why do we wait? Why do we wait? I need God today. I know that. You need God today. Whether a crisis comes today or not, I need God today, and you need God today. And when we recognize that, we're building a foundation of an enduring relationship with God. Fourth thing, we need to live daily with gratitude. If we're going to have a vital, enduring relationship, we need to live daily with gratitude. One of my favorite Christian thinkers is Henry Nouwen. If you've not read anything from Henry Nouwen, I invite you to do so. Nouwen died in 1996. He was a noted Catholic thinker, writer, taught at Yale Divinity School for about 10 years. Just one of the most respected respected thinkers in the Judeo-Christian faith, bar none. Almost anybody who does any spiritual reading knows the name Henry Nouwen. In 1981, while teaching at Yale, he decided he was going to go to South America. So he left Yale, having been there 10 years, and decided he would go live among the poor of Peru and Bolivia. And he spent 6 months there. And from that experience, he wrote a book called Gracias. And in that book, Henry Nouwen wrote about living among the poor of South America. In many of the families I visited, nothing was certain. Nothing was secure. Maybe there would be food tomorrow. Maybe there would be work tomorrow. Maybe there would be no sickness tomorrow. Maybe not. But whatever came to these people, they still greeted life with joy and with gracias. What I presume from God is my rightful claim, my friends in Peru and Bolivia received as a precious gift. What I treated as commonplace was for them a joyful experience. What I trivialized as ordinary, they celebrated with reverence and said, gracias. And slowly I learned what I had all but forgotten and dismissed. All is grace. All is God's gift. Light and water, shelter and food, a smile and a hug, work and leisure, pain and shadows, children, parents, grandparents, birth and death. They're all given to us freely by the God of love in Jesus Christ. And so I lived and prayed my gracias, gracias a Dios. Isn't that your life? It's my life. That every single day there is some signal, some sign how good life is. And whatever the difficulty, whatever the challenges, every single day, you heard me say it countless times, do we pay attention? There is some signal, isn't there? That life is good and that God deserves what? Gracias a Dios. And when all the dust settles of your life and of mine, it is a gift. Life is a blessed gift from God in spite of the challenges. And the final thing, if we're going to have an enduring relationship with God, then we need to be His agents of transformation in the world. Remember June the 17th? Does that date stick in your mind? We should not forget June the 17th. June the 17th in Charleston, South Carolina, Dylan Roof attended a Wednesday night prayer meeting, right? And he sat in that group of folks at Emmanuel AME Church. And when they prayed, he prayed. When they read the Bible, he listened. And he pulled out a gun. And he began shooting. And he killed 9 people, including the pastor of that congregation, the pastor of Emmanuel AME Church. June the 17th, 2015, Charleston, South Carolina. Emmanuel AME Church. Horrendous tragedy. 1 week later, that congregation regathered in that same place, that same spot, that same room where that prayer meeting was held. 1 week later, and the minister, the interim minister, said this. This space is God's space. So they gather in the prayer room where the shootings had occurred. My guess, there was probably still bloodstains around that room. And they gathered around that room, and the interim pastor said, this is God's space. This is not evil space. This is not racism space. This is not hatred space. This is not violence space. This is God's territory. We claim tonight, he said, this for God. This is God's territory. I don't know if you've been following the Memphis mayoral elections or not. They had a debate Wednesday night. I didn't see it. But I read what David Waters wrote about it. I just love David Waters, and you do too. David Waters said, I went to the debate, and there was a lot of data, a lot of specifics, a lot of information, but he said what I didn't hear was a vision, an inspiring vision for our community being a better place. We have that vision. We can claim Germantown, Tennessee. We can claim Memphis, Tennessee. We can claim Shelby County as territory of God. And when you claim something as territory of God, you dare to step forth and say, racism is not welcome here. And hatred and violence are not welcome here. And mistreating people, all of whom are children of God, is not welcome here. And dividing the poor from the rich is not welcome here. Denigrating those who don't quite have the resources that others have is not welcome here. What would happen in your life and in mine if we dared to become the agents, the beacons of light in a time of darkness, and we dared to claim the space as God's territory? Here's what would happen. It would change your life. It would change my life. It would change this community. If we dared to live out what we need to live out, and that is we will be the agents of transformation in this world in the name of the loving God Almighty. And we could start today. I want an enduring relationship with God. You want an enduring relationship with God. I know that. And we can get there. But we must make God's will a priority in our lives. We must make time for Him. We must acknowledge that we need Him. We must live each day with profound thanksgiving. And we must step out and be His voice of love in this world. Thanks be to God. Amen. We call your attention to our affirmation song. Please stand as we affirm our faith together.